But yeah, I think we're ready to get into the Q&A. Vladimir, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think Jeff already mentioned my question. The question was, well, first of all, great job as always. The whole demo system is shaping up really fast, really great. So as I was looking at the demo data design, my question was, do you think, is there any value and are there any plans to also provide demo data as code so that would be, well, version stored and version controlled in a Git repo?
I think it's certainly a direction we could go. The biggest thing that I think it's a great direction. I do see some challenges that we'd want to avoid. And those challenges are mostly with code sprawl. So everyone can create their own little scripts, but how reusable is it when you have a library of 100 things to sift through? What I would prefer to do is basically use our catalog approach. So as you create different demo data, it becomes searchable and all the metadata in there. It's easy to visually see what's going on and see those samples, and then allow it to export. So we export it out as JSON or out as curl calls or whatever the right uniform approach is, and allow people to take it and run with it outside of our platform in a usable way. But I think within what we're trying to do right now, I want to keep it in the UI and within the database for flexibility reasons. But ultimately, it is a possibility for sure, definitely. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, thanks so much for a great presentation. So kind of putting my demo hat on, if I'm using SkyTap or VMware, I would typically give a demo and then afterwards reset it back to a snapshot. Obviously, that's not quite what we're doing here. What's your recommendation on being able to quickly revert back to some known state? Is it creating a template, instantiating a project from that, and then just removing the project afterwards, or is there a more efficient or granular way to do that?
Great question. It's a multi-headed answer, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So the project template approach is what I would say for right now, right? And so what that entails is you build a master template of what you want to call it, right? And if that's issue tracking, if that's what you're trying to do for security ops, trying to do it IAC, whatever you're trying to showcase, you create a project, and then essentially you will use the project import tool to import from template. Or the problem with the import is it does not include some of the extra features of projects. So you may need to export that project and then import it back in as a new project. So you export the tar, bring it out, and then bring it in, or you can do the URL approach. So the export, import, and then throwing away the new project you created for that demo at the end is the right way to do it. One of the things that I heard about the other day that I thought was very smart was a customer had asked, hey, I love the demo. Can I keep that? Can I see that long term? Is you can export that ephemeral demo and just simply give them the tar file to go and import into their own GitLab instance to play with, was one of the examples. I'm like, that's pretty smart. As long as there's no red or orange data in it, that's okay. In terms of the long-term post-demo cleanup, that's where we're looking at those different ephemeral approaches, and we're trying to make sure that we do it right. So for the US region, you do whatever you need to do from project import. You have your group, you do your own thing. On the EU region, as we bring this demo data and playbooks things, these pieces in, what we'd like to do is have a kind of a nightly reset to snapshot and then re-import of the data that's fresh, right? Because what we don't want to do is build something that is consistent today as of May and then be using this in July and all the dates are 2 months old.
Right.
And so that's the big piece we're looking at, is how do we focus on real-time data? How do we focus on keeping it clean? And the best approach that I've been able to come up with, because snapshots revert to the state you took the snapshot, is if the demo designer can use relative dates, we can go back to a base level omnibus configuration, have that ready and that snapshot available. If that's nightly, if that's weekly, if it's monthly, whatever the numbers are, right, and then use the demo designer to re-import that data with relative and current dates, as well as avoiding the I click some configuration setting, I don't want to have to undo that work, or I can't undo that commit, or whatever the case may be. So we're working through those technical discovery pieces. But ultimately for right now, the project import and export is the best recommendation that I have And if anyone else in the team has other ideas or other things that you found that work, feel free to add in the comments, but that's what I would suggest.
Brilliant, Jeff. Thanks.
Yeah. Pete, you want to verbalize your question?
Hey, Jeff, fantastic job here. I'm very excited to get started with this. Just a question about the ephemeral clusters. Are they going to be automatically added to GitLab, or is that something we're going to have to go in and manually configure?
My ultimate goal is automatic. Yeah, what I like to do is on the dashboard for the demo portal, say, I need a cluster, so provision me a cluster. And then what we want to do is, as you know, Kubernetes clusters take 10 to 20 minutes to spin up and get the master to start, et cetera, is I want to have a hot and ready cluster for every user to come in and says, just grab one, we'll provision another one in the background for the next user. And when you grab it, is use the API call to add those cluster configuration variables to your group. So it will simply show up in your GitLab group for the instance that you choose. That's the ultimate idea with it, just to make things, the user experience that much easier.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, just to follow up on that, what would be the current state right now?
So the current state is everyone who wants to add a group level cluster, you have access to your cluster in group CS, and you basically follow the normal GitLab documentation for adding a cluster to your group, and you'll have to go into either kube control or the GCP console and get the variables that you need. Usually that's your Kubernetes endpoint, your API key, and so on and so forth to add that in. Cool. Mark, you want to verbalize your question?
Yes. Hey, great job, Jeff. Good stuff. I've got a bad connection, so I may go in and out. I've got two major projects I use for demoing. I bring them over from .com. They just hang and just do weird behavior. I know I've sent it to you. I do it on .com. It runs green all the time. Is it something in my infrastructure or something on your side? Any ideas yet?
It's on the demo cloud side. It's not user error for the most part. If it's throwing a configuration variable issue, it may be on your side. But if it's sitting hanging, waiting for the runner to spin up, or the review app just isn't coming up,
yeah, exactly.
There are some known challenges. We are seeing it pretty widespread.
Okay.
It's intermittent.
Cool.
So my best advice is pretty simple right now. The first is try to rerun the job. See if you can grab a new runner, see if it'll run and get a success. So if a job fails, try to rerun it first. Christian and I are working through a lot of experimentation to try to basically iron that out and make it more stable. Right now, it's more of a discovery than it is a solution. We're adding more logging to it. We're adding more event management just to kind of see where it's going wrong, because anyone who's worked with Kubernetes knows there's some crypticness to it. And even those who are very proficient with Kubernetes, I admit it's not my strong suit, but those who are looking at it like, I can't see what's going on here. Yeah. So right now we're trying to understand more. As a temporary workaround, when we first spun the demo cloud up, we had Linux runners that were running instead of Kubernetes runners, and those were pretty stable. We're going to respin those up today to provide the stability at the runner level. That may or may not solve the review app challenges, but at least it will take one piece out of the equation until we understand what more of the problems that we're facing are. So you're not alone. You're not doing anything wrong that I can see. But the best thing to do is simply post on the Demo Systems channel, or specifically the CI-K8S support channel, if you have those challenges, and then we'll work through them and triage, try to figure out if it's us, if it's a variable, if it's, hey, reran the job, it works just fine, and kind of take from there.
Great job so far, and hats off, Bit.
Cool. Very good. Daryl, you want to verbalize your question?
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Yeah, I'm going to echo Mark's sentiments. Great job thus far, and big thank you. And thank you so much for adding some videos and documentation in the system as well. I think that's going to help from an enablement perspective. So great stuff. So the first part, it's a two-part question. The first part is, you had mentioned that we've provisioned essentially some of the folks that joined our workshop. Are we able to tell if those guys and ladies are using the system or not? And if they are, how much they're using the system?
So the answer is, to an extent, yes. We do have a feature request to make that easier. And that will be in later this month as we spin up the new Omnibus instance for training specifically. We're going to integrate those features in. What that'll ultimately be is, as an instructor, you'll have global view of what all the users and subgroups are, and that will solve that challenge. In terms of the redemption level, we are adding that into the demo portal, so those who are normal instructors or regular instructors will be able to go in and provision their own invitation codes and see the redemptions of those codes. And so you may be you'll be able to map it more to the username. For privacy reasons, we obviously do not map over the student's first and last name into the GitLab instance because of the sandbox nature. However, we do want to see what the name of the person who redeemed the invitation code is on our portal, which is red data protected. So we can actually map, hey, I see 20 students that are in my Zoom call. Only 15 names are here. Which ones are not on this list, right? So we're going to map that as well. But ultimately, yeah, the new Omnibus instance for the training cloud is going to solve the challenge that you see from a visibility perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. The second part is really kind of more channel focused, and it could be for the channel team, but I thought I'd ask it here. When the channel team is enabling partners, are they going to be using this as their demo system, for example, if we're enabling some of the essays that, XYZ partner, is this the system that they'd be using?
So we had a strategy and scoping call last week with the channel team about this specific question. The consensus that we came to, and this is a work in progress, so this is subject to change, is that we will use our training cloud for their initial onboarding, their initial certification and learning the GitLab product. From their ongoing sandbox needs and demo system needs, they will be either using GitLab.com or spinning up their own Omnibus infrastructure for that partner with the help of the channel SAs who will be guiding them. However, a lot of the tooling and the automation and the way we do things will be open source to share with those partners for them to be able to be efficient and adopt it sooner.
Okay, very good. Great strategy. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Cristiano, I think you're just stating some data for the team at large. Is there anything you wanted to verbalize?
Yeah. Some of you already discovered this, but we are experiencing some trouble creating new cluster on the Kubernetes platform because we are running out of IP addresses. And this is unfortunately not to our abuse of them, but to the default configuration of Google that it's high consuming. So if you need a new cluster, please ask to me and to Jeff, because usually it's required some attempts to get the new cluster done. And so we are putting the correct configuration in the cluster creation to avoid a larger consumption than what is needed. And I saw also that we have a lot of clusters that are outdated. So the version that you are running is not supported anymore. This could impact also the integration with us because we are expected a specific version. So if you don't have anything specific or hard to be migrated on that cluster, keep in mind that the upgrade is similar on a time perspective to the cluster rebuild. You can ask to us to rebuild the cluster, so we are going to free IP addresses because the old cluster are consuming up to 32 new cluster space. So this can help some of your workmates to have a cluster that actually may not be possible. So thanks to you for the collaboration.
Great. Thanks for the update, Cristiano. David Astor, you want to verbalize your question?
Hey, Jeff, thanks, man. Good stuff again. Echo what everyone else is saying. Fantastic. Just a quick question. When we're creating new issues and everything, do we have like a group of like sample users? I know we had talked about that at one point. Is there something that we can assign other users to so it looks more real, if you will, like when we have data through there?
Yeah, so we're working on that right now, and I'll give you the work in progress thought on this. So with the EU cluster, we want to have a sample company with it, right? And then use the marketing persona users and all those different characters, as well as additional randomly generated users that we have in there. So the demo designer is going to have a new users tab that will show the users that get created as part of your playbook. And then once those users are in the playbook, you can then assign them through issues, milestones, so on and so forth from that perspective. As when the playbook runs, those user accounts let you get created, And on the demo portal, you will then see the username and password to sign in as those users, or as an administrator, you can always hit the impersonate button and do it that approach as well. From an individual project perspective, you can imagine if you would create 15 users or 20 users out of part of that, we're going to run out of licenses pretty quick. Not that we can't mitigate that problem. So ultimately, I'm trying to find the right balance of, does every SA have 5 to 10 to 50 users if all the projects each time it gets created? Or do we use it, the user part only works on the shared instance? So I'm working through some of those technical details, but the answer is yes. That is coming in the very short term, with a generated list of ones we know about, plus you can add your own names if you want, so if you want to have some fun with it. So yeah.
Super awesome. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Nice backdrop, by the way. Very cool. Mark, you had a question.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, can we provide workshops for customers? Like there's Intel one, there's about 2 or 3 that are coming up that I'd love to use Stevo's project. Can we do that
so
today?
we've been supporting workshops. So when I refer to the training cloud, this is what I'm referring to. So we have a process that goes through and creates all of the, it basically does the user count provisioning for users. So these are the workshops or training classes that we've run in the last 3 months. So it's a known thing to us. Our theoretical capacity right now is around 200 people. And so I know that the field marketing team is spinning some stuff up. We've been doing monthly virtual DevOps ones, and so a lot of where we're at right now is the answer is yes, it's not a problem. There is a process for doing it, and if you look at the slide deck itself, have a look at slides 34 through 42, and that will give you the full context of how we do it.
Great.
Yeah. Jeff, can I follow up on that?
Sure.
There's an active thread going on right now about wanting to increase these DevOps automation workshops to 500 people instead of 200. I just want to make sure we have confidence and we have experience using live environments in a virtual format for like a workshop with 200 people, but we think 500 is not something we can support today. Is that fair?
Yes, I'll answer this question because this, I got asked that question yesterday by Joel, and he was helping field that conversation with them. So where this really comes down to is right now our omnibus infrastructure has a certain size of an instance on GCP. So there's only so much CPU memory assigned to that instance. The training cloud itself, as we spin that up, will have double or triple that capacity. However, there is a theoretical user limit to that capacity and how much we spend. Right now, our environment is perpetual. So we basically, whatever we spin up, we pay for the duration. Right. So I'm not going to spin up something that's going to cost us thousands of dollars a month for something that we only normally use 20 to 30 people. So what we've seen so far is twofold. One, the infrastructure capacity, which we can solve that problem, but solving it next month, it's not going to be on the roadmap to solve that, right? The second piece of it is when we're running the larger workshops, we have a lot of SAs who volunteer their time to be teachers' assistants and help out the users. And there's a limit of scale to that. That's the biggest challenge that we run into. And so the virtual DevOps, I'll let those who are actually in running that workshop speak to any details around that. But the highlight is if you get to 500 users in a workshop, how many SAs do you need to support that?
Yeah, so I'm just asking from I just want to know from a technical demo environment, because I've been in training classes before where you overload the system and everything crashes or comes to a screaming halt. So I think we have to have that conversation in terms of how many SAs do we need to support this if we can, but I just want to know what the absolute maximum is that we're confident from a technical demo environment standpoint.
So I had specified a limit of 200 because I know that I can mitigate if we run into problems with that. If you're wondering in terms of what we've actually done at full capacity, on the virtual DevOps workshops, we had 80 on let's see, which one was this? We had 2 of them back to back, right around April 30th and May 1st. We had 90 active in one, and we had 81 active in the other. So that's what we've actually, that's what we've done. We didn't run into any capacity issues at that point. But I don't want to go beyond my theoretical 200 until I do a bigger CPU memory instance.
I don't either.
So yes, I think that's getting talked into a level of reasonability, I think is the best
And I
way.
absolutely agree. There's a whole bunch of other logistical nightmare issues when you have 500 people you're trying to support at one time. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see, the answer is that. Chris, would you like to verbalize your question?
Yeah, so I'm new here. So if there's
Welcome.
any misunderstandings, then please excuse these. Nice to meet everyone. But yeah, so I know that we're talking about ephemeral environments. I think that's great. Obviously, that's a huge cost saver, right? I'm just wondering if there's some sort of like automated like Reaper script that just cleans up my environment, or if when you're done with it, like how do you get rid of your environment?
So good question. There's multiple ways to solve this. So within GitLab, everyone kind of has shared access to several different cloud accounts, right? And so in GCP, we have GitLab internal group, we have a group CS group, and we have a GitLab-demos group, and there might be others that I'm not aware of. And you simply create your stuff up in there. There's nothing that cleans up after you in that environment. On AWS, we do have a script that will go in, and if a EC2 instance does not have termination protection enabled, after 14 days, it will be powered down, not destroyed, but just powered down to save on the compute cost. The majority of our users who have been doing a lot of this are using infrastructure as code tools, Terraform, CloudFormation, so on and so forth, to simply spin up what they need to and then destroy it when they're done. So if you're going to be doing a little bit of it, don't worry too much about it, clean up what you can. If you're going to be doing very comprehensive environments, I really suggest using Terraform because it's easier to do a Terraform apply than a Terraform destroy, and then it'll clean up after you.
Thanks.
Yeah. John.
Yeah, I saw your spreadsheet for the transition from I2P.online, but
Yep.
other than signing up on the new demo cloud server and transitioning, I guess, our project from I2P.online to that server, what else do you need from us to help with the transition?
Basically, the sooner that you are done and can mark ready, the better. What I'm ultimately trying to do is ban or delete user accounts on I2P, and so I can basically get that list down to 0. So the sooner that we get everyone saying, I don't need I2P anymore, the better. So if you move your projects out, even if it's basically, if you have projects in I2P that you're not using, but you might need them and you don't want to transition them yet, simply do a project export to get them out of there. If you're still actively using I2P for performing demos, then specify a date in which you're saying, I'll be moved everything over by then. But right now, I'm simply trying to reduce the active user list in I2P to work toward a deprecation.
So it's just a matter of marking yourself as ready for decommission on this. Okay, perfect. Awesome.
That's it. Yeah, I'll take care of everything else behind the scenes. So.
Cool. My next question was around having access to admin panels. Sometimes I go onto I2P just to look at the admin panel for a sanity check, and I2P was great for this. What are my options now?
So now what we're going to be doing is using the EU instance of the demo cloud. So we've had the US one that provides the sandbox. The EU one will be available very in the next week or two here. And the goal with that is everyone has admin rights on it, so you can go in and see it. And because we'll have sample data and projects in it, you can see the admin settings for those sample projects. Because that instance will be rebuilt on a recurring basis, it will keep things clean, as we go. But effectively, that'll be the right option for it. If you need an alternative to it, you can always spin up a Docker container with GitLab in it and grab it off of that if you really need it. But we are trying to solve that problem with the EU instance.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. We are close on time, so this is a 2-minute time warning. So Mark, your question will be the last one. And if you do have additional follow-up questions, there is a AMA I'm having tomorrow. Just open format for anything else. If there's no questions on the AMA, we'll go ahead and cancel it. But just Mark, feel free to finish us off.
Just want to know, Windsor Groups CS, when's the end of life? Is that going to be, well, because I use that.
Not for a while.
Okay.
You don't have anything to worry about. So we're not going to be launching and doing the R&D on the ephemeral clusters until Q3. And I suspect we'll do another 3 to 6 month deprecation. So if I had to make a guess, November, December, maybe sooner if we end up with cost control issues, but it's a ways out. So
great answer. Thanks.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to join the AMA tomorrow. And that'll be basically a demo designer deep dive and focusing on how we're going to build up our sample projects. And we'll probably dive into the EU instance and play with a couple things if there are not additional questions on there. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining, taking the time. If you have any follow-up questions that aren't suitable for the AMA, feel free to ask from the Demo Systems channel. And with that, thank you all, and I'll pass it back to Chris.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for coming and sharing all this great information with us. Thank you to everyone who joined and for those who had questions. Really great stuff today. We'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.